Before I begin this video, I'd just like to mention that the world that we are living in is aggressively becoming more and more artificial than natural. From the unlimited supplies of nutrition-less packaged foods advertised as nutrition-packed foods, if anything, I think advertisement is making us more and more gullible and vulnerable to all kinds of diseases and eventually leading to the indefinite circulation of money. If you think about it, money that could be saved, money that could be used for our needs, money that could be used to help people in need in the world. We live in a world where boots and jackets cost more than a yearly income of some. And if you really think about it, advertisement as though creates an unreal can't think of the right word. Yeah. An advertisement creates an unreal scarcity in the world. And that scarcity makes you think that advertisement, it makes you think only of your wants and not of your needs. I mean, if you think about it, the amount of sugar level that's present in these packaged foods, and you're well aware of what packaged foods I'm talking about, I'm not trying to target any brand and any particular brand. And those packaged foods actually taste pretty good. Either it's soft drinks or chocolate or whatever. If you take the same amount of raw sugar that's there in these packaged foods, if you eat the same amount of raw sugar, you'd actually vomit. But they still taste pretty good. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, the truth is that the amount of sugar level that's contained in these packaged foods is eventually leading to the increase in obesity, and it's making us, in a way, vulnerable to all kinds of diseases. And as far as I can see, people are, in a way, withdrawing from anything that involves some sort of thinking and some sort of research. And I mean, I'm talking about people who are consuming these products are becoming more and more ignorant. And this, I think I should call it deliberately deliberately being ignorant to, I think in some way or the other, I think in their conscience, in their consciousness, I think there is this questioning that what am I eating? But they've become so lethargic, or they've become so much engrossed, so much the advertisement or the system has tricked them into believing that taste comes before what they actually need in the world. And I think that's going to cause in the coming years, it's going to cause all kinds of diseases. I think infertility rate will go up, and I think that essence of human being, I think it's going to convert into some sort of a synthetic sort of a life form, because we know that the kind of products that we're, I mean, there's some sort of plastic that's been found, nanoparticles of, I don't know the exact thing, but I know that's been found. Plastic particles have been found in foods, these packaged foods. And so we need to be aware of that. And plastic is alien to the body and can't be digested. So it's going to be a problem in the coming time. Yeah. So if I think about it, it's ultimately what's going to happen is it's going to ruin our lives. And of course, most people will be the target of it, not people who are well aware of the truth. And now, who are these people who are well aware of the truth? The people in power, people who are manufacturing these products, people who know that they have to, that their lives matter. Now, how does a person know that their lives matter? First of all, if a person has a lot to, you know, give up, if a person has a certain amount of wealth in the world, if the person has a lot to lose, they'll be well aware of their mortality. They'll be very concerned about their mortality in comparison with someone who's not even, who's just simply thinking of a survival, or a middle class person who has seen both ends of the life of this indefinite, if this of this of this want to climb the economic ladder. And he knows that there is, if he works hard, he'll get promotion, and then he's gonna have more of wealth. He's gonna earn more. And at the same time, he's also seen I think any middle class person knows what it's like to not have money, to be jobless, to be unemployed, to not have money, because they go through certain. I think a middle class person has perspective of both ends of the life, where when there's, he knows that what happens when he works hard, gets a job, and gets money, what kind of life that is, when he can buy things, he can treat a girl, I don't know, whatever there, or he can buy something, iPhone or whatever. And then at the same time, there comes a period in time when it's very tensed, when somebody in the house loses a job, or there are many examples of it. I mean, if a friend loses something or whatever. So they have, the middle class person has a perspective on both the lives. But I'm talking about people who are just working day to day just to make a living, just to, get through a day. Yeah. So people in power who are, I would say, the class that is controlling or manufacturing or making products, they're well aware that consuming sugar is not good for health, and eating these sort of oily products, or if you eat what everyone is eating, I think you'll be vulnerable to all kinds of diseases. Now, what are most people eating? They're eating foods that are not fresh, fast foods, junk food, that's what we call it. Foods that contain so many chemicals, so many artificial substances that can't be digested by the body. That's not good for body. That causes all sorts of problems in the body, in the human body. And we still indulge in eating it because it tastes good. And so we need to be very careful we need to think like a manufacturer. We need to start thinking like the ones who are making this product. Because when you start thinking like that, you try to think, okay, what is this made of? What is this dumpling that I'm eating in a stall or in a restaurant, whatever? What am I eating and how is it made? Because it's definitely not made in front of you. And so you have to be very curious, and you gotta ask the question, like, what is it kind of made of? But it doesn't actually happen. It normally doesn't happen that we question the person who is making it, or if they never make it in front of us. So there's that. So one can't know what he's eating until and unless the effects of it start to build up, in the body. But by the time the effects or the side effects of whatever you're consuming outside, which is not good for you, um, there comes a time when you start ignoring these symptoms or whatever, and you become addicted to it, just like a cigarette. But at least in the packets of cigarettes, it's mentioned that it causes cancer and that it kills you, that it has the potential to kill you. It's clearly advertised in the packet of cigarettes, at least in India. And then there's this very bad image of the mouth. And so, at least it's commendable that they're showing the truth and people are willingly, wanting to die. So that's another thing. And in alcohol, if it's injurious to health, if there's a tag, that's great, because so that people know. But I'm talking about products here who are not advertised as injurious to health, and they're as advertised as immunity booster, or all sorts of things. Like a recent example is Bornvita, and it's given to children. It's for children, and it's the all sorts of good things written. Like it's advertised as a healthy product, but it contains so much amount of sugar for a child, and it's certain that if a child consumes it twice or thrice a day, he's vulnerable to obesity and all sorts of diseases. So we really need to check. We really need to be. I think the people have to either discard these products or they have to opt a healthy option, because manufacturers would do anything. And if a product is coming at a very cheap rate, if it's being given to you at a very cheap rate, not at a very, but it's comparatively cheaper, so the cost of production will go high if a packet of, let's say, Bornvita of anything, if it costs more and it has less sugar, but it costs more, people are not going to buy it let's say in a country like India, where so I think you know what I'm saying, that if the manufacturing costs goes up, the rates of the products are also going to go up. And if they don't have all these sugar and all of that, people are not going to buy it because it doesn't taste good anymore. So the thing is, we need to find an alternative to it, in the sense that we need to find an alternative of sugar, or to find, manufacturer needs to find something that can be good for health, and at the same time it tastes good. But I think that it'll increase the manufacturing cost by a margin. So there's that. So I think manufacturers need to figure a way out in order to, make a product that's healthy, that's actually nutritious, that actually is an immunity booster, rather than, advertising a product as if it's nutrition-packed food, but it's actually nutrition less packaged food. So there's that fight. And I actually wanted to talk about a couple simple the title of the video is going to be an average Indian explains simple steps to ruin your life. So one of the steps was eat what people are eating. And the second step is, one of the steps was so when I make these videos, I'm not reading a script. I never read a script when I'm reading a video. I'm making a video, and that's why there are hardly any cuts in the video. But yeah, so I think that's a double-edged sword. Because sometimes I forget most of the things that I wanted to talk about. Sometimes I jumble them all in, so it's really hard to. So yeah, the next thing that I wanted to talk about was if you want to, step one to ruin your life, let's say step two now, because eat what you eat was, let's say, step one. So step two is don't think. So if you're not thinking on your own, I think you're a target. You become what people want you to become. You become a product of the environment rather than, and you lose your individuality. There's no personality left if you don't think on your own. And I think if eventually a person starts to think on their own, what happens is everything that we know is coming from a source. So when there's a source, we say, okay, this is where I get the information from. Okay. But let's say that source is corrupt or misled, or that information is not accurate. Let's say that source that you're getting information. So let's say the definition of photosynthesis. Okay. Green plants can prepare their own food with the help of chlorophyll in the presence of sunlight, air, carbon, So the process is called photosynthesis. So if you take that definition, okay, and if that definition is coming from, if that's inaccurate definition, but it's being taught to a children, okay, now that student is going to think that, okay, so this is the definition, and he's going to challenge someone who's telling him the right definition of it, because it's been taught to think like that. So this is what happens when you don't question the source of information. If you don't question where the information is coming from, what the actual reality is, and oftentimes it's really hard to get to the roots, to really understand something in its pure form, because by the time it gets to you, it's been already, it becomes a fictional story. So, and these are turbulent times. It's very hard to really know what was truly said, or what was really, but the ability of science is that it can be tested. And so I think the example of giving of a photosynthesis definition, I think, I should rather say something that was, inaccurate, but said in a so I think you get what I'm saying. Yeah. So the next thing is, so if you don't think on your own, eventually I think, you gotta question the source of information. And I think if you really, really start to question and take this path of thinking and rethinking, and I think you might actually question reality a little bit, because there's a lot of it out there that's been twisted and made into a fact. So there's that. And so but I think focus on rationality for now. I think that's something that makes sense to you, something that could be, that you see practically, that you have a good hold of. So there's that. So that was step 2 to ruin your life. If you don't think on your own, you're gonna ruin your life. The third step was sticking to your phone. I think it's pretty obvious that, I think you know what I'm going to say, so I'm not going to elaborate on that. But sticking to your phone is going to ruin your life. You kind of, there was this comment on one of my videos where I had written sleep deprivation, and there was this girl, I think, girl or guy, who said, because I had been sleep deprived for 2 days, because there was this dopamine rush and I was unemployed, and so I couldn't sleep, apart from a few other things. But so there was this girl or guy who said, I haven't slept for 2 days, and my video was on her feed. And so this kind of something to think about. Or how the phone works. If you search for something, it's gonna show you advertisement. It's gonna show you let's say if you checking Nike shoe on YouTube, it's gonna pop up next day on the same day, on your feed or wherever, Instagram or wherever you're checking. So there's that about the internet now. Yeah. So we got to be cautious about the use of phone. Don't let it be your master. It needs to serve you. And I think it was Tim Cook who said, "Don't use your phone too much." I'm not sure, but yeah. So there was that. And the next step, let me just have a look at it. Yeah. Be negative. So that was one of the steps to ruin your life. Be negative. Now, what I mean by being negative, of course, as the name suggests, to think about things negatively. Even if what happens is basically something goes wrong, something goes, south in life, and we kind of think of why me and why did it happen to me? Like, why do bad things only happen to good people? So, of course, I think it's becoming a trend that only bad things happen to good people. So there's that. But it should not become. We, there's one thing that there was a friend of mine who said, you know, that we should never question why me, and I think that's very true. That no matter what we're going through in life, I mean, if you start asking questions like why me, why is it happening to me, you pray to God all the time and still something wrong happens to you. You're praying in a church and then so the point is that I think, I don't know if you're a God person or not, or you're inclined toward scientific evidence of everything and anything and everything. But I would like to say that whatever it is, whatever is happening, I think don't take it as an accident, or just don't take it as an accident. That's all that I can say for now. For all in my spiritual journey, for all I can say with whatever has happened in my life, I don't take it as an accident. That's all I can say about it. And I think I would say that to you as well. Don't take it as an accident. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's happening for a reason or not, but for all I can say is that, it might not be an accident. So thinking negatively about things, it's just gonna boil more anger in you. Your body is going to become this melting pot of all negative energies, and then you're gonna take that anger out on your mom and dad or brother or someone else, people who actually didn't deserve to hear. But what can you do? You've so much pent up emotions, and then you just vomit it all out, scream and shout. It's just like, I think it comes down to, I think, finding someone in life who becomes this companion sort of a person. But in today's day and age, I think, I mean, if you're a guy, let's say, I mean, the amount of people being cheated on, I mean, it's scary. It's really scary. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, just give me one sec. Yeah, it's a really scary time. I mean, not scary, but I mean, it's really hard to trust anyone nowadays. I mean, because from what I've seen, I'm talking about my own experience in life. From what I have seen, I think it's really hard to trust people. and you can't trust people until I mean, they give you 100 reasons not to trust. I mean, to trust them. They would just be very honest with you, and then they would do the same thing that they talked about that they were never going to do. So it happens, and so we're living in a time, and it's really, I mean, when somebody does something like that, your perspective is like, okay, every woman that you see next is a gold digger, or you see them as gold diggers. And from what I've experienced, I think most, like, if you're earning X amount in life, if you have this much amount, and there's a person who's earning this much amount, most women would choose to be with that amount of person rather than this amount of person. And I'm not talking about any particular individual. I'm not even talking about in general. I'm just saying, from what I've experienced, from what I've seen, people that I knew chose to be with people who had more wealth, more power. They choose to be with them rather than someone who would have cut his throat for this, or taken a bullet for the girl, And so we're living in a time where, so I think it also comes with, I think the root of the problem is this. We as men have disciplined ourselves. We have, when we have freedom and we know we are free, we take control of it. I'm not talking about everyone, but I'm talking about, this is again from my perspective, from what I've seen out there, from the men that I've seen, men who haven't laid with a girl, men who have never cheated on girls, men who are kind and innocent. And I've also seen men who are manipulative and who just want to fuck girls, have sex with girls, have drugged girls. I've seen those kind of men as well. But majority of the men that I have been and surrounded by, my friends or anyone, they've shown me that, that they would have taken a bullet for a girl who actually cheated on them, or who used them for some sort of, I don't know, some fun time, that sort of a thing. So, but that this reminds me that as men, we have controlled our freedom. We know where any good man outside, he knows that I need to control this freedom, because it's always the woman who allows something to happen. Until and unless it's forced, until and unless something is forced, it's always a woman that allows a man to either be in his life or not. It's just as simple as that. If somebody is forcing themselves on a woman, I think that's ill. That's gonna put them behind bars. But that's another category. But I'm talking about in general. Let's say if a girl has guy friends, she's allowing that to happen. And I've seen men who, I think this is going sideways. It's going to make me look like a man supporter, or, that sort of thing. If that's the case, I think, yeah, I am. But what I'm trying to say is that, yeah, we're living in a time where the times of our, we'll never find a girl like our moms and sisters, I think. Yeah, I don't have a sister, but I'm saying, like, yeah, we'll never find women like the ones that lived, that have given birth to us. I don't think we're living in these, and it's going to be very hard to find a woman who's really, who's going to give you all your heart and your mind and, all of that. And I'm not talking about being with a loser or something like that. I'm talking about guys who are taking responsibility, taking action. Taking responsibility brings me to another point, which is, if you don't take responsibility, you're going to ruin your life. So you got to take responsibility for your actions. You got to be responsible for the things. For example, you got to be responsible for the happiness in your family. I mean, as a child, as a as a son, it's my responsibility to make my father happy, to give him all of that he has given me, and to 10x that, or to give him more happiness. I mean, I can't really. I mean, it becomes a responsibility of sons to be responsible, and I think it's a part of being a man. If you can give happiness in your family, if you can make your home, if you can put a smile at your father's face, I think we don't want much more than that. I mean, it's just the best thing and the best feeling in the world is that. I mean, to make your parents smile, and for that you gotta take responsibility. It's something that needs to be taken responsibility of. It's a duty of a man to. It should be taken as a duty, as a job, to put a happy face. If not a happy face, just leave them, content. Don't trouble them. That's not the. Do not be aggressive toward them. Do not. If even if, let's say, they lose their temper on us sometimes, or when you were a child, your father beat you or something like that. Even if, I think you got to forgive them, and you got to learn what you got to see them. You got to put yourself in their shoes. The finance that your father is trying to take care of, and if he's drunk and whatever, it doesn't give you an excuse to call your father evil. I mean, there are people like that. There are parents. There are of that, they don't have any care for their children. There's that. But if your father even once in front of you, even once he showed you that love, indirectly or directly, I think, it becomes your duty to devote your life to bring them happiness. Enough of this responsibility thing, because it's an emotional topic, I think. The next thing that it's gonna ruin your life if you don't take action, don't go out, hide. So that's the thing. If you don't go out and you hide inside the four walls of your room, well, you're in a dire situation of becoming someone who doesn't really. I mean, nature heals you. That's the property of nature. It does heal you. If you just look up at the sky, it's gonna heal you. I mean, if you put your naked feet on the grass, it's gonna do something to you. If you put your feet on the soil, I mean, it does miracles to you. So if you don't go out, if you don't socialize in the sense, I mean, it's really hard to find people who share the same sort of mentality. If you're a thinker and a doer, I mean, it's really hard to find people who are, thinking at your level, and but still, it doesn't give you an excuse not to socialize. You got to try, and you got to try harder in order to. I mean, being on YouTube has shown me that there's so many people out there who are just like me, and I love that part. I mean, when I see the comments, and I'm like, man. So yeah, so go outside and don't ruin your life staying inside. Just go outside, even if it's gonna be a pain in the ass, but just go out. Don't hide. Go out alone, be alone, but just go outside in nature, far from your home. Just go, travel, save money, or just take a small trip to a hill station or whatever. Just go out, and it's gonna open your eyes to the nature. Just be a part of the nature. So there's that. Yeah. So the next step is, if you wanted to ruin your life, The next step is ignore the connection with the elements. Now, the elements that I'm talking about in the Panchabhutas, in the Panchabhuta, um, in Hindu philosophy, in ancient Hindu philosophy, Panchabhuta. So there are these elements: fire, water, earth, space, and wind. Panch means five. So fire, water, space, earth, and wind. So these five elements, it makes us who we are. It gives life to us. If we lose connection with these elements, it's going to cause a lot of problem. It's gonna cause the deterioration of our mental well-being and our health. It's going to cause a lot of trouble if we lose this connection, if we don't engage with this connection with fire, water, space, wind, and earth. Now they all have a lot. I mean, if you read the Panchabhuta, I mean, you're gonna know a lot of things. So fire is in relation with. I'm just giving an example. Fire is in relation with the digestive system. So if there's no fire, food is not going to be digested. So, and earth, like, fresh, like, food and all of that. So there's a lot of it. I haven't read it, but I just have an overview of it. And so, but what it tells me is this, that if you lose connection with the elements, it's going to cause a lot of, it's going to make you it's going to make you're eventually confining yourself, your dimensions into just one little pocket size, whereas there's indefinite potential for the perspective to grow, to have perception, to have an insight into things, to have a foresight about things, of what's coming, to control. Because this is what I think, nature, it gives you clues and indications that if something is going wrong. And if you really listen to it, you can change things. Change things in your life, at least. And the next step is, I think I'm done with all of them. Yeah. So there were 9 steps, and I think I've in a way combined them into 3 or 4. But yeah. So the last step was give up. It was funny, but yeah. So yeah. I think enough for today. Yeah, and in the coming time now, you just won't be seeing me on this green screen. You're gonna see an outside perspective of it. I'm taking a bike, and I'll be traveling, and I'll be making videos outside as well. But it's gonna be conversational video. Conversational video, I think. Yeah. So I'm really excited. Really excited, and love and light to you all, and just create, think, and do. That's the message. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video.